A lot of guys are not used to meeting women that are very, they know what they want. They're very forward, because I'm very aggressive. I mean, I'm sure you remember, I'm very, very aggressive woman, very forward. I know what I like, I know what I want. Even when I'm out and about in public, if I see something I like, you know, man or woman, I will go up to that person and try and pick them up, you know, and it kind of freaks people out a little bit, because they're like, hold on a second, you know.
You'll pick a guy up?
I've done that before. I have. I actually, before the Me Too movement happened, you know, I remember being at this club in Hollywood and seeing these two guys. I actually was trying to get these two guys to come back home with me. One of them chickened out. But
wow.
The one guy, I came up to him and I grabbed his ass. I literally just walked right past him and I grabbed his ass, and as I walked away, I turned to see if he noticed. And we made eye contact, and he like looked at me and he's like, come here. And I was like, okay. So I come up to him and I start talking to him and his friend, who was also equally very good looking. And I gave him my number. I was like, yeah, I live down the street from here. Like, you know, you guys should come over. So then, you know, fast forward, his one buddy was petrified. He's like, I'm not fucking going over to this chick's house. You know, I was really scared. He's like, oh, you know, my friend's kind of drunk, but you know, like we should hang out. So, you know, 2 days later we ended up hanging out. And had like the best sex ever. Like, you know, we started.
Really?
Yeah, like we.
That's a big word.
Yeah, like I mean, he's not the best sex I've ever had, but you know, one of the best sex that I've ever had. For just picking up this random dude at a club, he had a big dick. You know, and I've never really been such a size queen, but like I got spoiled, you know, the last few years, and I'll never forget it. We went out, had some drinks, and then we picked up his car from the valet. I started getting him roadhead, almost got into an accident because I was like just so hungry for his cock. And then we ended up going back to my place.
Roadhead. I mean, you got these terminologies that are great.
Yeah, yeah. And then we started doing it I kept doing it in the elevator to my building, and then ended up doing it in my kitchen. I was living with two guys at the time, my roommates. So like I woke them up with just like my loud sex. I mean, there's a lot of stories I could share from when I lived with those guys that they witnessed and seen. But no, it was great. And so that was like one instance where my aggression and my forwardness did not freak someone out. But more often than not, that's usually what happens. Like I've met people on Tinder and Bumble where they're like, I'd say, just come over, because I'm not trying to get wine and dine. I'm like, I want to get fucked. And so I remember having one guy come over and being like, this is just really weird. I'm like, why is it weird? He's like, I've never been to a chick's house that I just met on a dating app just to have sex. Like, normally girls make me take them out. I have to work for it. I'm like, yeah, no, just stop talking. Let's just get to it. You know what I mean? And then afterwards I kicked him out. I was like, okay, thanks. You can go. It wasn't even that great. So I was like, all right, bye. And never called him again. Yeah. Wow. And so, you know, other people are lucky, like my boyfriend, you know. But he did things right. Like he knew that, like, you know, I'm not going to spend the night. I'm not going to do this and that. And then, you know, he kind of hooked me to the point where I didn't want to see anybody else after for a while. Like, you know, I was kind of seeing other people, and then I started dating him. And then I was like, I just started blowing people off, like guys that I was seeing or guys that I was talking to or whatever. I kind of just started blowing them off completely. And I was like, I just, you know, because for a while, I don't know if it's because I'm getting older, you know, I'm going to be 35 this year, and next month, I'll be 35 next month.
Looks good to me.
Thank you. And I know that before my boyfriend, like a year and a half ago, before we started dating, I just started getting, not even so much bored, but I started realizing that a lot of these dudes are just not doing it for me, you know, like aside from the 2 pump chumps, the 30-second guys, or the guys that are like fangirling really hard on me. That was the story that I was about to share with you a moment ago when you asked me for an example. So I met this guy on Bumble, and he didn't say he knew who I was. It was just like, okay, cool, let's meet at this one spot, and then, you know, we'll go from there. And so I meet up with him. We're sitting next to each other side by side at this bar, and the first thing to come out of his mouth, like, I don't know what made him think that it's okay to open with such a line, but the first thing to come out of his mouth was, so I have to tell you, I watched one of your movies last night, and I'm just so amazed, I can't remember what word he used, amazed, mind-boggled, whatever, to be sitting here next to you now, and that we're about to fuck. And I'm like, wow, that's very presumptuous of you to think that, like, you know what I mean? And spoiler alert, yes, I did fuck him, but I did. Because at that point, it was just kind of like, great, now I have a reputation to uphold, you know what I mean?